I am Mr. Domestic, and this is my weekend project. I've made 2 different versions of this quilted floor pillow. Both are bombastic awesome. Let me show you how I made this one. So the first step in creating the pillow is picking the fabric. I like to have contrasting value, contrasting styles of the fabric, and then I wanted to throw in another complementary color of the gray. I use my daughter a lot, and she'll pick out fabrics and I'll just run with it, and it'll be my job to make something awesome with it. Fabric, it's unique in that way. You can't do that with paper. You can't do that with clay. You can't do that with anything else. Fabric's my jam. So once the fabric's picked out, the next step is the top, which is all English paper piecing. Cut them all out, and then from that, you'll glue baste it, wrap the fabric around it. There's just a variety of shapes that you can play with English paper piecing that a lot of beginner sewists would be scared to do on their sewing machine. When I thread a needle, I start and create a loop, and I sew with a double thread. And then I will bring this down and then use that to go through the eye of the needle. And then this loop I will use to go over the top of the needle, pulling down to secure it. Now I use a whip stitch. There are other stitches that you can use. I just find the whip stitch, honestly, to be the most mindless. Other ones take way too much focus for me. So I use a whip stitch, and I sew the 2 together. I whip stitch toward myself. And it's just like the spiral of a notebook. And I'm just getting that edge right there. And then when I get to the end, before I continue on to the next piece, I will tie a little knot right here. And I create a loop right here. And I will take and grab the tip of the needle and pull that through the loop, creating a knot. And then I will grab the next piece and begin sewing that to continue the thread. Start with the smaller increments, get into the bigger ones, attach them. It's all the same motion over and over again. Sewing, it brings peace to me. It brings joy. It forces me to get off of technology. It forces me to be connected to my kid, and it's one of the things that forces me into presence. I am about being joyful. My life has led me to realize that's the most important thing for me. And I'm all about the process with sewing. I strive for 95% perfection. I don't strive for 100%. My philosophy is that final 5% is what steals the joy, and I don't ever want that to be stolen. So with English paper piecing, it looks like it's a lot of work, but you start with the smaller pieces. With this project, there was this center star, and then there are hexagons all around the star. It's something that's done in a whole weekend. Don't worry about the quilts. Just start with a pillow and then grow from there. So at this size, removing the paper should be easy breezy. If there are any that you potentially over glued and you're having an issue with, then you can set a steam iron on top of it just to soften it up. So when flattening out English paper piecing, I'll always do it with the right side on top, and I'm ironing it just to flatten it. Flip it over to get the edges to flatten these out. I love to quilt with a fusible foam. This is a double-sided fusible foam on the top, and then there's a lining behind it. Once it's fused, you can take it to the sewing machine. It doesn't matter what foot you use, and you're gonna be able to do some bomb quilting. So once that's done, and I sewed 1/8 of an inch, roundabout, an estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect, on either side of an extended seam. And I love that for 2 reasons. It's easy and I don't have to think. And then 2, whenever you use a fusible, there are seams that are right here and it hides those. I love straight line quilting. I love it for a similar reason to why I love the whip stitch. It makes all the whatever I was dealing with go away. It puts me in a zen space. Quilting was scary. I started with apparel. I understood those projects. They made sense to me. This would be like a gateway into quilting. Once anyone makes this project, they will be obsessed and love quilting and want to quilt everything. The top is done, and it was the bulk of the work. All you have to do is sew it together. The voluminosity of it is up to the maker, right? Some people like firm pillows. Some people like soft and squishy pillows. I've created a bunch of different types just so that I knew what to recommend. What I do with that opening, you just stuff it and then you hug it and you feel it. And like, if it brings you joy, then you're done. If you don't feel the joy, you're not done. I think it's ready. Now, all I have left to do is to hand stitch this using a ladder stitch. And we have a finished pillow. The final step in this pillow is like a next level boss kind of stitch that is way easier than people think, and it's an invisible ladder stitch. So essentially what we're going to do is sew on one side. The needle is going to go in and out right on that seam allowance fold. Right here, see, it's creating a ladder. Then look what happens when I pull it taut. It disappears. It hides the stitches. Most people, when they first begin stitching, if they're gonna hand stitch something, they use a whip stitch that's visible. This is an invisible way to hide the stitch to where people are gonna be like, how did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. If you're a new sewist, it could be the beginning for you to finding a passion and a love and a joy in an unexpected place like it was for me when I first began sewing. And then you're done! And you don't even need a couch anymore. You can just make pillows.